Hey guys, happy Friday. Today is Friday, December 1st, if you can believe it. I can't believe it's December. Welcome to the TED Show. We are at episode 69. Can't believe it. And I am with Danielle Hill, who has agreed to do the show, even though she's got so much stuff going on and she doesn't feel good. But she's got her tissue. She's a trooper. Let us know that you can, and welcome, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let us know that you can hear us. I know the camera angles. You guys are going to give me a hard time about the camera angle. You got to work with what you got to work with. So the other Miss Marshall's on. Oh, Bob Moylan says.
Other Danielle.
Yeah. Bob Moylan says feel better.
Oh, thanks.
So you are a trooper because you honestly came on and you weren't sure if I would want you on, and I said, of course, if you're up for it. I think the message, the topic that we're talking about today is so important. And, okay, you can hear us. Thanks, Bob. And but it always boils down to whether or not you're up for it. And then, of course, you have some other things going on that just made this day challenging overall anyway. So I appreciate the fact that you are here.
For letting me
I am very happy to have you here. And I think again, like I said, the topic is so important.
It is.
So I met. This is my first time meeting Danielle today, and I actually was introduced to her by Danielle Marshall, who is on and watching. And so when I found out about your organization and your journey and your history, I was like, absolutely, she needs to be on the show. And so thanks for coming.
Again, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right, so give us a little history about you. Like, I'm learning. We always joke, just to give a little lightness to it, that I have like $3.45 for research and development. So that basically goes to my vodka drink most days. But I love to engage and learn things as we're going. So tell us a little bit about you.
So I was born in Lakeland. I pretty much grew up in Florida. I moved around a lot when I was little, just because my father worked at CSX Railroad.
Awesome.
So we moved around the country a little bit, but always ended up back in Florida. Grew up with two older brothers, so that was tough.
The baby sister, though.
Yes,
aren't you the princess?
Yes. Well, I don't know. Princess is kind of far-fetched. But so my middle brother is actually the brother that committed suicide. And I know there's a stigma also around the committed part of that. I just haven't had, I guess, the time to be able to switch my linguistics to.
No, I don't know about
different.
that. So we covered just a whole bunch of stuff there. So let me back up for a little bit.
Okay.
Why? We'll get to your brother because I want to, obviously. Why is the word committed stigmatized? That's the first time I've heard that before.
Oh, okay. Basically because it is the act, but suicide in itself is the act. So basically, if someone were to say your loved one suicided, so that's putting it in past tense because suicide is the action, but committed kind of puts a negative connotation to it. So that's why they kind of frown upon using
Wow,
that.
so do they say the word suicided then? Is
Yes.
that what they say? I didn't even know that was a word.
Yeah.
Hey, Jerry, I honestly have always said committed suicide and never really given a thought to how that all plays out. Committed. Actually, if you say committed, it does have a negative. You committed a crime, you committed something.
It's so difficult to change your verbiage to just think that suicide is the action.
Right.
So it's a very difficult thing.
Interesting. I had not heard that before. So, again, something to be cognizant about when you're talking about friends or family or you have anyone you know who has suicided. It's hard to say.
Right.
It's difficult to say.
Right.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. So your middle brother.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the history on that, and I appreciate you sharing your story because it's so important. What happened, how that all looked, because I think a lot of people, and we're going to talk about this, I miss the signs, I feel guilty, I don't know why this happened, how could this happen, he was happy, or if he was, I didn't know it was that bad. So talk about that and his journey to how that all happened and then what happened after.
Okay. So he was actually, I don't know if you would consider a handyman or a master craftsman, but he would just fix everything and he was very creative himself. So about a year before he suicided, he had a stroke, we believe, and so it kind of lost sensitivity in his left-hand side, so he was unable to get up on a ladder and unable to use the wrench in a proper way, or just different things that he made a living with.
Wow.
So it made it very difficult for him, but then you can't say that also. You can't say that that is the only reason.
Right.
Because you never truly know. So
did he show signs? Like, of course, that's devastating. How old was he?
35.
Wow. So, and how old was he when he had the stroke?
34. So a year before.
So he has the stroke. That means he can't be productive in a way that he's been used to being productive. Did he have any signs prior to of being depressed? I get asked this a lot. Being depressed. Was there anything that told you, hey, he struggles a lot with this?
So absolutely. We never knew if it was because of the stroke that happened, or if it was just exuding the signs of suicidal behavior, because at that time we didn't know. It's all in hindsight. Unless you train yourself to know what those signs are, you don't. So just he kind of became a recluse, and he was he won the Halloween contest downtown Orlando for his Halloween costume, larger than life. So he was friends with everyone. He would reach out a hand to help anyone, just be there for anybody he met, he would be there for them. So it was very, very different from where he was in that year after the stroke, because he wouldn't really talk to anyone. He was very divided from family.
And had not really been that way prior to the stroke.
Mm-mm.
So there we go. Sorry about that, guys. We're at the Citrus Club, as you know, so the connection can be a little bit of a challenge. So to recap, he was very involved, very active, very social prior to the stroke. And then so when something happens in the stroke, that's all about the brain, and you have no idea how it really impacts the brain. But physically it impacted him enough where he just became reclusive, is what you were talking about. So.
Yeah, and again, we can't say for sure if that's what it was, because there were some things going on in his personal life that could have lended to the loneliness and things like that as well. So we don't really know for sure, but it was one of those instances where, yes, we absolutely saw that there was kind of a downfall, I guess you would say, just by being a recluse and not being that larger-than-life person that he normally was. So we tried to reach out with him just how we knew how.
Sure.
Just the way that we knew how. And those ways were not the correct way, which we know now. So,
but you didn't know then. You didn't have any tools.
Exactly.
You didn't have any experience with it, which
exactly.
most people don't. I mean, you don't study up to figure out how to be preventive on suicide.
Right.
It's not something you normally would do.
Right.
But now that you've looked back and you've become aware, you know some of the signs.
Exactly. And that's a very dangerous place to be, because for a long time you do stay in that that position where, what could I have done? What should I have said? Why did this happen? If you go down that road, it's a very dark and lonely road, and sometimes you don't get the answers that you're looking for, so it can become potentially very dangerous. So in order to become a creative outlet and be able to focus on the positive side of, if there is one, create the positive side of suicide and be able to bring the word out and make it less stigmatized, and be able to talk to people about it and just open up and be vulnerable and discuss these things, then we can bring the positive out of people and help people.
Because I think what happens, like I had a friend that if she wants to come on and say something, that's fine, but I had a friend as an example recently, her son committed suicide, and I think that was probably the furthest thing from anyone's mind, because what happens is we all go through our stresses, our sadness, if you want to call it depression, anxiety, but you never think that somebody's in such a dark place that taking their life is their only, or they feel like it's their only answer.
Exactly.
And that's where I think that's where so much of it comes in, because you may have checked on that person, you may have said it's going to get better, they may have seemed to get better, and then they choose to take their life, and you're like, God, what could I have done more? Should I have Baker acted them? Should I have Marchman acted them? Should I have done more, been there more, checked in more? And then you, like you said, you start to go down that slippery slope, that rabbit hole where it's nothing but anguish and grief, and you can't because you don't know what their decision-making process was at the last moment.
Right, and sometimes it's not a necessary can't in that situation because you do it without thinking about it. It's a subconscious thing that you just question about every day. What could I have done differently? Could I have said something differently? But you have to really focus on how can we move it forward? How can we be progressive, and how can we change society to believe and know that there is something that is good that can come out of this.
So you have now since learned some of the signs or some of the things, like you have tools now that might have allowed you to, or you recognize better now.
Yes.
Okay, so what are some of those things that, can you share a couple with the audience? Because I think people who are on or people who have private messaged me are like, well, my brother seems depressed. What should I do? What should I say? Or how do I approach it and make sure I make a difference rather than push them further away?
Right, and that's very difficult because each individual is different, obviously.
That's a great point.
So it's different how you approach the situation, but I always say, and I don't remember who exactly said this, but you listen to understand and not to reply. So if you just sit and actually listen to the person and what they have to say and see what they're feeling internally, then you can work together to come to a solution. So you're not pushing that person to come to a solution that you want for them, but they have to decide. They have to decide what that solution is for themselves. So they have to be proactive in their journey to move forward. So some of the signs that you can say is being reclusive, distancing yourself from friends, drinking heavily or drugs, things like that. And then if people in discussion or just in passing say, I don't want to be here anymore, there's no point to this, and just simple phrases that you can just catch out of the blue, then you can sometimes just walk into a conversation with them and start seeing what their mood is. What is your emotion? What are you feeling at this time?
That's all. I mean, I think back to that last thing you just said, if somebody says it to you, you must, in my opinion, take it 100% serious at that moment, no matter if it's said drinking, not drinking, jokingly you think, not jokingly. If somebody is verbalizing that to you, that, in my experience, you need to be cognizant of that and stay on top of it and keep as much in touch with them and try to talk through that, because I have friends and family who have expressed that to me before, and in my mind, I knew I needed to continue to ask them, are you okay? And it's okay to ask, once somebody says that, it's okay to continue to ask, are you in a place where you'd actually hurt yourself?
That's another subject to touch on. I apologize.
No, please, go. This is your show. Do it.
No. So it's also another fact that when you come out and ask the question, are you suicidal or are you thinking about killing yourself, you have to be direct with that question.
Yes.
Because if you skirt around, it's kind of giving them a way out. It's kind of giving them a way out of the conversation.
Absolutely.
So you have to, that takes a lot inside to be strong enough to be able to say that. I learned that in the training that we took. It's called ASSIST training. So it's Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. Yes.
ASIST.
Yes. So in our training, we had to use it as a theater, basically, and come back to each other and ask each other, are you feeling suicidal? Do you want to kill yourself? We had to get to that point. It is factual also that they're not going to think about suicide if you direct that question to them.
Right.
So it's actually giving them a platform to reach out to you and say, oh my gosh, someone is actually listening to me. Someone can actually be there for me. And if you're not strong enough to have that discussion with them, you can always say, I know this person or I have this resource. Call the suicide prevention hotline.
Correct.
There's actually a text line that they can use right now.
Yes.
A bunch of different resources that they can reach out to if you don't feel like you can own the discussion and be able to move forward with them in a healthy and safe environment.
I love that, and I think that in my experience, people who have sometimes if you say the word suicide, their brain has gone to every other word. I love the topic though. There we go. All right, the feed. I know. It's not strong. She keeps buffering. I know. Thanks, Mary. You're right. I've never been in this room before. It's Valencia, so we now know Valencia is cursed. So what I was saying is that, and thanks to you guys for staying, what I was saying is that a lot of times they haven't gone to the actual word suicide in their mind. So if you talk to them and say, are you thinking about, if they say something like, I don't want to be here anymore, which you mentioned before, that's not saying the word out loud. So sometimes if you say the word suicide, so here we go, we're going to keep trying. We're determined. So whoever's playing with the internet today, whatever. So
might be a sign, who knows?
You never know. But so you have to, if you say this word suicide, that doesn't necessarily mean that's something they've connected to in their brain. So please ask, are you going to hurt yourself? Are you thinking about ending it all? There's many ways for you to say it. And if you just get caught up on the one word suicide, that may not be what connects them to the thought process they're having. Because as you know, the stigma's there even when they're having those feelings and thoughts. So you want to be very specific about how you ask. And if it's suicide's not the word, go. If they say absolutely not, say, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about doing something to yourself? Just really try to get into it with them. And like Danielle said, be brave enough to do that, because that might be the one time where you get them and while they're thinking about it, and you can actually have a conversation with them.
Right. And it is very important to be direct with that question, to say, are you thinking about killing yourself? Because that really puts them there. And,
yes.
Do they have a plan for that? Do they, see tomorrow happening? Do they, where do they stand with that? So that kind of opens it up to them to be able to be honest and open and feel
Yes.
that connection to somebody else where they might not have ever had that before. So that opens it up to then reach out to people if you don't know those avenues to go, which groups to connect to, what their action plan is going to be able to move forward. And what do we do now that I have said I am thinking about this?
Yes, what do you do next? So let's say you're brave enough to be the person that asks that. Then what? If they say, yes, I'm thinking about hurting myself. Well, what do you do?
So the major thing there is just the biggest thing is to keep them safe for now. So we always, not always, but in the training, we just say, what can I do to keep them safe now? So let's talk about it. Let's, keep them safe now. Is it okay if I text somebody to let them know where we are? How can I get in touch with your family? Do you want to reach out to your family? So be in the moment with them, which is also hard. It's very hard to take that on and
Yes.
say, even going through it, because then you kind of have the flashback of saying, I could have done this.
Yes.
But now I have the training and the resources to do it for someone else. So just be in the moment with them and let them realize that they are not alone and you're there to support them and you can move forward together.
So that's because Danielle has learned and done research and formed her own company, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so in the aftermath of what happened to your brother, you had some, obviously there's nothing positive about the aftermath once that happens. So you had to make decisions, you were going through things, feeling things, and then you at some point decided to make it a journey for you, a lifelong journey, a creative journey, I think is what you put in your bio. So tell them about that.
So Worth It came out of his last post. He actually posted on Facebook that he wasn't worth it. Oh. And I know. So we wanted to switch that around and just let everybody know that you are worth it. And you are definitely worth it. So I created the company. It is currently an LLC called Worth It. What we do is we repurpose and refinish furniture and decor. We currently sell it for profit and then donate those proceeds to AFSP, which is American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Which is the nonprofit that we added to the post that you can donate to.
Yes. We have a walk coming up in February, which I'm sure we'll get to that soon. But the company, we take in donated items, we purchase low-cost items and refurbish and refinish them. We sell, we have a booth at Trader Mays in Apopka, named Worth It as well. where we can sell our items and then generate the income and to be able to donate that for different causes. So we redecorated a little girl's room that lost her father to suicide, and she was getting oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
She was getting some kind of service?
A friend of mine is actually taking custody of her.
Wow.
So she had a room, but it was not painted. It wasn't girly. She's 9 years old. So we went in there and kind of repainted everything, put new furniture in there, bedspread. She had never had that before. So for her just to light up like that and know that someone cares and someone actually is paying attention, it was just the world. So just to be able to do those little things for people and know that someone is there and let other people know that they are worth it.
I love the worth it thing, because you're right, and I did not know that about your brother's post. I think that people do. So that's how you're feeling at that moment, right? That's you can't go into their. Joy says she's so proud of you.
That's my mom.
That's your
She's
mom.
actually the co-owner of the company. So
hello, Mom. We're so glad you're on today. But I think so. That is such a unique. One of the things I loved about Worth It is such a unique approach. And so, just because she's an LLC, she's working on a B corporation,
or the nonprofit,
and for the nonprofit, and then so you're giving back. It's not like you're trying right at this moment to make money off of anything as far as other people's sadness, which I've had somebody on that did something very generous like you're doing, and there was some feedback on that. And you have to understand where she's coming from. You experienced it, so you know the pain, and this is your way to give back, your way to work through your journey. But that must have been difficult too, to kind of figure out, all right, how do I do this? How do I make this my life's goal or my mission? Or now it's become your passion, for lack of a better word. And how do you take it to the next level? Is it difficult because you are always reminded of, because basically it's a reminder all the time about your brother.
Right.
So is that hard to deal with on a daily basis?
I did think about that in the beginning, and the first few months of doing it, yes, it put it just right in my face. Which is difficult, but you can't sweep things under the rug. They're not going to go away unless you work through them and deal with them and work through the pain and see how strong you come out on the other side. So yes, it was extremely difficult to be able to put ourselves out there and with the emotion behind it and everything and try to get this going, which it wasn't a matter of how can we do it, we just did it. So we just...
I love that though. Isn't that what you have to do?
Exactly.
You have to jump in and then figure it out, because honestly at that particular... There we go. Look, we're back. I hate buffering. Hey, Lorna. Stefan says, Danielle has always had a heart of gold. So proud.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie.
Is that how it goes? Oh, good, Stephanie. Yeah, you never know with people's things. Just like I asked you, is Graham your middle name? And you're like, no, I go by Danielle Hill. Yeah. All right, so keep going. Worth It.
Yes.
How do people reach out to you for Worth It? We're not at that point, but I'm curious.
Oh, okay.
Is it all on Facebook, you said?
Currently, well, you were sharing a similar story with me earlier that a friend of yours had terminal cancer, and the young lady that was actually creating our website, she had stage 4 cancer and recently passed.
Oh my God,
so,
I'm sorry.
She was working diligently to get that started for us, but...
Well, need one more thing. Here we are, we're back. I have to keep lifting the camera up.
And the Wi-Fi connection is right behind the camera.
Literally, it's right here, so you never know what's happening. So you get to see my face a little closer and Danielle's face. All right, so go ahead. So you have the Facebook page. Unfortunately, her web designer passed. That's terrible. So you have a lot of things that you've been dealing with. Don't you feel like sometimes it's one thing after the other? That's sort of where you're at today, right?
Yes.
So. And she said to me, I won't tell you exactly what she said to me, but it's definitely been an interesting, because she was, as a lot of people are, you come on the show and you don't know what's happening, and you're already kind of nervous, and you're probably speaking about a topic that, no, I don't care how many times you talk about it, it's still emotional, it's still raw, and then Danielle has other things going on, so it's been a challenge, and we love you guys for continuing to support the crazy 30-second interruptions, because I guess I won't be in Valencia anymore. So what can we do to support you? What can the community do? Because Worth It is how old? How long have you been around?
Sure. So we've been doing this for a little over a year.
Okay, so relatively new.
Yes, and we currently are the LLC just because we wanted to create a way to be transparent and to show everyone, what we are doing with the funds that we're making. So whether that is creating the little girl's room or donating it to AFSP or whatever we do with those funds, we want to be able to project that to anyone or that wants to see it. Currently, we're working with a financial advisor. His name is Philip Henry, and he is the most amazing individual I think I've ever met.
Philip, we'll have to tag you.
Yes.
Is he on Facebook?
Yes.
Oh, good. We'll tag him.
He's with Smart Wealth, and he's doing everything in his power to help us become a nonprofit or the B Corporation. So when we get that, and it will be soon, hopefully, we'll be able to create, contracts and different things for Furniture Avenues and how to get that and how to become bigger. Is it going to be a warehouse? Is it going to be transportation? What does that look like? So like I said earlier, I don't know where we're going to go. I know it's going to be huge. We just have to keep doing it to get there.
Correct. You're on a journey, and I think 99% of the battle is taking that first step on the journey, and then you just have to go. You have to keep going, right?
Yes.
You have to keep going.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what the journey is. It doesn't matter how painful the journey is. Once you take that first step, the second step gets a little easier, and then after that. But if you have a mission, which you do, and a passion, which you do, then and helping so many people, like this time of year, there we go. Here we are. Look, I'm having to stand up, hold stuff. Polygram's
He's
proud of
dancing
you.
around the room.
I'm
It's really
dancing
funny.
around the room. I still have my clothes on, though. Watch out, it's Friday. All right, so finish up a few things before this crazy camera cuts us off, because
Yes.
it's so important. So tell them we were talking
You did
about.
touch on a point about trauma, and